This is the X-Zone Broadcast Network, broadcasting worldwide on broadcast affiliates and satellite program providers, including CNN Broadcast Network, Sirius Satellite Network, Star Media, Good News Radio Network, Angel Broadcast Network, Wiki Broadcast Network, and WPBN-TV. For more information on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit us at www.xzbn.net.
Hi everyone, this is Patti Conklin, bringing to you tonight Quantum Physics to Metaphysics with Life in Between. This is a show that's all about you, how you feel about life, perceptions of life, and how I view life and my perceptions of life, and maybe somewhere we'll meet in the middle. I'd like to be able to bring all sorts of different guests on the show, and we're going to be ranging from your health and how your body is listening to your words and listening to the stress externally around you in your world, to the unknown, to the paranormal, to the UFO, and even the alien realm. This show will bring a broad dissection of everything you've ever wanted to know. And of course, as I always say, this is my perception of life, but maybe, just maybe, it will bring in an idea or a thought to you in your own life to be able to use to enhance your situation in your life. I hope this show to be informational and educational and open-minded. So with that, I'd like to bring in Bob Keeton of Living Successfully. Now, Bob and I have done shows together for years and years, close to 20 years now. And I thought this show would be appropriate to have him come back in and interview me, as we have in the past, about all of the different things I've encountered in my life and some of the situations that have brought about my views that have made my world what it is today as a medical intuitive and vibrational mediator. So with that, I'd like to bring in Bob and welcome. Thank you so much for being a part of this first show.
Thanks for including me, too. You know, over the years, one of the more popular things that I ever got to do was programs with you because people responded every time. And, you know, when you came to Richmond, when I was living there, and we did shows with a live audience, in every case, the place was full. I'm not aware of any exceptional promotion or anything like that. It seems like people just showed up. Do you know what that's about? Because I never understood it.
You know, I think as we've looked at life, as I've looked at life and the programs that we've done together, it has been word of mouth. You know, I've been doing this work now for 21 years, and it has been word of mouth, mostly, not slick programming, not marketing, not products. It's really been about people hearing my words. And you know, the one theme that always comes back to us every single time is people will say, it's not that you're saying anything new, Patti. It's the way that you phrase it. It's the way that you place the words that then makes that light bulb go off and makes me understand what it is.
Okay, that kind of makes sense. And you know, I'm hearing the same thing as this is the first of a whole series of programs you're doing, although Quantum Physics to Metaphysics is a program you have done in the past. I know that. But talking to some of the other practitioners, I get the same thing. Bonnie and Vicky, Rochette, all three were saying that they felt like when they met you, you made other things that they had learned before make sense. It's like you gave them some context to put their prior training into.
I think that's a really understandable analogy. I think that's really what I have heard from people is they've had their trainings, they've had their past trainings with other people and so forth. It's how I tie it together. And I think that unique perspective of not having had a teacher. You know, I've done one weekend of hypnotherapy And that's it. There has been no training. There hasn't been someone that I have followed. My work is based upon my life history, not anything else. Yeah. My life history of observing people, living through the events that I've lived through, and being able to then present that in a way that makes it understandable for the average person.
I mean, is that hard for you to do? Do you have to really think about, now, how will they understand this? Or do you just present from experience and people get it?
It's a multi-mode. I really present from experience. I think that's the best place to come from. But then I also change my language according to who I'm speaking to. If I'm speaking to a room of metaphysicians, then I'm going to be speaking more in New Age or metaphysical speak. If I'm speaking to a room filled with scientists and physicians and physics professors, then I'm going to be talking more science. I'm going to be saying exactly the same thing. I'm just going to be changing my language around. So when I get a cross section of an audience, you'll literally hear me say the same thing 2 or 3 different ways so that I capture everyone in the audience into their understanding and languaging of communication.
Got it. I will never forget the privilege of interviewing Edgar Mitchell, one of the astronauts. And the first thing he said to the room full of people in front of us was, now everyone here who is not a Reiki master, would you raise your hand, please? But he knew the audience, and I think they're the same people that show up around you. A lot of times it's the healers, it's the people looking to do advanced work. And we can talk more about that, right?
Absolutely. We want to talk about the practitioners we have in place and everyone who's been helping me on my journey and looking to take over and continue my journey. So I'm looking forward to that.
This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
Gibbs A. Williams, Ph.D., is a practicing psychoanalyst, supervisor, researcher, and author in New York City. Much of his life has been dedicated to understanding nature and the uses of meaningful coincidences or synchronicities. His radical and original non-Jungian, non-mystical, non-magical theory of synchronicities illuminates much of the fog surrounding this challenging and perplexing topic. His ideas and manners are fresh, presented in a style that is both entertaining and highly informative. He is also an expert on crisis intervention, specially focused on violence reduction for the police and citizens, mastering anxiety, frustration, and stress without the use of medication, and effectively preventing and treating heroin addiction. Dr. Williams can be contacted at his email address at gwwilliamsny11@aol.com or visit his website at www.drgibbswilliams.com.
Shamanism is recognized as a method to access the quantum level. Mastery of shamanic skills puts spiritual information and healing power into your hands. Path Home Shamanic Art School, a bonded Colorado certified occupational school, has met rigorous state standards, ensuring its director and instructors have the qualifications to teach the shamanic arts. Path Home offers its certification program in blocks of study. Block 1, a 5-day intensive, will be held in the beautiful mountain town of Coaldale, Colorado, October 13th through 18th. Registration deadline is September 12th. Experience journey trance, power animals, helping spirits, sacred space, and life purpose. Come discover your power. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, in the magical world of shamanism. Call 303-775-3431 or visit findyourpathhome.com.
Patti, Conklin, and I are back on Quantum Physics to Metaphysics. My name is Bob Keeton. Thanks for joining us. Brand new program. Patti's been down this path before. Another program, also Quantum Physics to Metaphysics. Very successful, and so this is a follow-on to that. Patti and I were just talking about her training of other people, but it's not just that you're training other people. You've also worked with clients over the years. I am fascinated that so many healers tend to show up to learn what you can teach them. In fact, a couple of them said those very words to me. They wanted to know what you could teach them. What's that about?
I think it's really about people understanding that what they've learned through different teachers and different experiences isn't all of it. In quotations. Mm-hmm. I think they understand that there's more to learn, that we have to go deeper. You know, the modalities of energies, of Reiki and therapeutic touch and sound therapy and essential oils and crystals. I mean, they've all been modalities that people have loved to learn. But after they've learned that, I think there's still a sense of what is there still, because I don't feel like I'm quite at the core. And my work has always been about within the cellular structure itself, within the body. And I think that they come to me because I'm very plain spoken. I talk in the language that most people understand, which is to say, I'm just speaking from my heart. I'm just teaching what I know to be true for me. You know, I've done one weekend training of hypnotherapy, and that's been it. Everything else has been observation throughout my lifetime, coming to grips and understanding my gift that I've had throughout my lifetime. And it's not that I'm, quote, special. It's just that I have always known that there was something going on, that I was always seeing something. Maybe I didn't understand it, but most people get scared when they're young, when their heart starts opening and they're able to start seeing things, and then they get scared and they shut it down. And then they kind of get in their 20s and 30s and they begin to understand that there's more. So not only are metaphysicians coming into that, but engineers and scientists and physicists are also flocking to workshops and buying CDs and just listening to different programs like this, Quantum Physics to Metaphysics, with life in between, because they begin to understand that they may have the science piece, but they don't have the spiritual piece. And maybe that person has the spiritual piece, but they don't have the science piece. And in the past, I think a lot of training has been about how those two are separate. In my world, those two walk hand in hand. And so it's being able to bring those into a marriage of science and spirituality and help people understand from both ends of the spectrum, whether they're a linear thought, intellectual, or whether they're a heartfelt metaphysician. So that they can understand both pieces. They're not polar opposites. They're actually beautifully connected together. And I think for people, that's what kind of brings the full circle for them in the understanding. And I think that that's why the work for the last 21 years has been so attractive to people.
I have a friend now who is going through one thing after another, learning about the runes and then the tarot cards and about guided imagery and how do we do hypnosis. Just one thing after another. When I listen to the conversation, I realize I don't think there's an end to this. You know what I mean? That you're looking for something else. It's not out there. I'll be quiet now.
It's inside.
Yeah.
And so many people take the trainings and the different programs not to be able to utilize it on other people, but to understand it for themselves. And that's where the whole client database has come in over the last 21 years, is the fact that people are looking for that information for themselves, not just as a practitioner, but how do they understand it for themselves? How do doctors help people understand? Because doctors have come a long way in the last 21 years where they understand they have phenomenal technology. They've got their pharmaceuticals, they've got whatever they think they need, but they know there's a piece missing.
Yeah.
And that's the spirituality. And I can't tell you how many doctors will come into a workshop and they'll say, I'm going to leave Western medicine because this makes so much more sense to me. And I go, no, wait. There's a reason why you learned Western medicine. It's a necessity. If I've got a broken leg or I'm in a car crash, I need you. I would rather go by ambulance and go to the hospital and see you. But if you can bring my world, my spiritual world, my energy world, my understanding of that tangible energy into your world, now you're doing double duty for that patient who's sitting in ER or who you're going to go see. And I would say exactly the same thing to a spiritual practitioner is you don't need to become a Western doctor, but you do need to acknowledge that there are times when the body needs one or the other or both. And you can't just simplify it into, I'm the only thing you need. Right? Because that's not the way it works. So we've seen this groundswell in the last 21 years of so many different modalities and trainings coming into play. And it's been imperative and it's been so important and it's been heartwarming to be able to see that, to be able to present that and be a part of that aha moment when someone begins to understand exactly what it is that they've been feeling or seeing or they've been intellectually understanding.
So what I hear you saying is no problem praying about the wound as long as you're removing the bullet at the same time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. That's a good way of putting it. Go ahead and do the energetic or the praying or whatever it is your modality is, but remove the bullet. So it's understanding that, we can get into the woo-woo world, which, for everybody who's taken my class or the 100,000 people or so that I've worked with around the world, they know that the woo-woo world doesn't work for me. I want data. I want the science behind what's taking place, but I also want the miracles. I want that absolute miraculous healing that we never would have expected. Because what it does is it begins to balance out the duality of our natures, right? I mean, duality is going to exist, and that means our linear brain and our spiritual brain need to be in balance. And if you just become a woo-woo practitioner, you're just working with your right brain. If you are a scientist who is only linear and you have no interest in understanding the energy body or the language associated with the spiritual aspect of things, then you also are losing out. So those two pieces have to blend together. We can't just leave them in this space of this is all there is, my idea, because what I know for certain is I'll forever be an embryo. The more I learn, the more I understand I know nothing. And so life is this continuous journey of understanding, because once I close my mind to an idea, then I've closed my concept that there could be anything else, right? Even if I think that I've dug through as much as I can dig through and I've got all the answers, then I realize I don't have any of the answers and that all of it is wide open.
That is the biggest thing I've been learning the past couple of years particularly, is that what I judge right and what I judge wrong, I really don't know what I'm even talking about.
You really don't.
I don't know where those beliefs even come from unless I've examined them, and usually we don't.
Well, and the thing is, understand that your belief can only come from your life history, right? It's you believe by what you've seen with your own eyes. And so our beliefs come from our life history. And because none of us have ever experienced exactly the same life history, we will never have the same perspective of a situation because we don't have identical life histories. All of us see through our own lens, and it kind of goes back to, having three people watch an accident. You'll get three different views of what took place. And the reason you're getting three different views is A, you're getting a different view because of life history. B, you're getting a different view because how you communicate, whether you're auditory or visual or kinesthetic. What's your primary? In an emergency like an accident, it will always reverse. First, primary and secondary will always switch in an instant of trauma. And so in the past, maybe you've listened, you've been auditory, you hear, but in the moment of an accident, if you're visual, all of a sudden your visual takes primary. And so you can't even relate the information back the way that you would have in a common situation. So it's understanding you've got those two dynamics taking place in every situation. So there can't be a right or a wrong. All it can be is something based upon the perception that you have of your life.
This is huge, and I know how big it is, and I still want to back off a little bit. I have had the experience of being on a jury. Have you ever done that? Do you ever get called for jury? You know what? This is where it really comes home. You're sitting there and you honestly hear one person describe the situation and the other one describes something totally different. And they look at you and say, "What's the truth?" Oh, wow. What is the truth? And that's kind of where we're coming as a nation. But that's too big to talk about right this second. This thing about, what is that called? That's like cognitive dissonance, isn't it? Where you see something, but you're told, no, you didn't.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's the experience of, people not trusting their own knowing. I mean, I think that that's huge in this society across the world. That's it. Is we don't trust what we know. Right. And so if somebody externally says, "Oh, you didn't see it that way. No, it was more like this," then people are sitting back going, "Oh my goodness. Okay, well, wait a minute. You've got more authority than me, or you've got more background than I do, so you must be right, right?" Because you've got more education or more knowing or more whatever. And so we tend to give our power away because we don't want to take the responsibility of our own trust. So I think that we get into that paradigm a lot in our world. I really want to encourage people that things aren't right or wrong. They simply are. And if we can look at the world, and I think that that's what the gurus and the yogis and so forth through the centuries have said, is to become the observer. And becoming the observer means that I'm not giving a yes or a no to this. I'm simply observing it because I can only observe it according to my consciousness, according to what my life history has brought me. And who am I to judge whether it's right or wrong? Because you're doing the action, and if you're doing the action, then you're doing the action according to your life history, right? Or karmically or soul process or whatever it is. But for me to judge you on it means that I am now taking an authoritative, I know better role in saying yes, no, whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's take a break and we'll be back. This is Quantum Physics to Metaphysics with Patti Conklin. There's more on the web about Patti Conklin's healing work and the work of practitioners she's trained at patticonklin.com. That's PattiConklin.com.
Did Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone radio show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Wouldn't you love to know the secret to everything? Well then, meet Dr. Kimberly McGeorge and her cutting-edge breakthrough knowledge that combines science with possibility. Dr. Kimberly brings real-life answers and healing to those open to alternative solutions. She teaches solution-based programs and classes that will change all areas of your life forever. Specializing in conscious creation, intuitive readings, and energy medicine, you can rapidly shift health, relationships, business, and money and abundance challenges quickly. Receive her best-selling book, Secret to Everything, at no cost by going to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone. That's right, transformation can start now. Just go to secrettoeverything.com/X-Zone and receive Dr. Kimberly's book for free.
While science pursues fact, magic accesses the quantum level, bridging random facts to form truth. As long as science and magic remain separate and polarized, the truth cannot be known. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka. Join me on the Science of Magic radio program, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. During each episode, I'll be speaking with experienced and respected scientists and mystics. From astrologers to astronomers, from medical doctors to shaman, the scientific method to dowsing and intuition, we'll weave together information from seemingly divergent practices to promote unity and enlightenment. Join me, Gwilda Wiyaka, and the Science of Magic right here on the Mutual Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.thescienceofmagic.net.
I am Dr. Carl O'Helvey, founder, president of a new cancer foundation focusing on evidence-based physical, mental, and spiritual interventions, including natural cancer cures, prayer, meditation, affirmations, nutrition, and other related holistic cancer prevention and cure modalities. These are used in cancer education, research, and financing care. I ask for your help to continue this important work by donating at www.holisticcancerfoundation.com.
Quantum physics to metaphysics with life in between continues. Patti Conklin is here. This is her program. My name is Bob Keeton, on board for the first show, and I'm really glad to be. Patti, we were talking in the last segment about how we started to get toward how thoughts can really drive us away, really even from our own good. If we get confusing messages or are told what we saw didn't happen, like with child abuse and that kind of thing, this can end up in some real physical problems, can it not?
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's important for people to understand that every word you've ever spoken is stored within your body, and the emotion attached to the word at the time that it was spoken or thought is what stores within your cells. So there's so many of us, around the world who do years of therapy as adults. And they think they've really reached, a turning point where, things aren't an issue in their life. And then all of a sudden something major happens and they find themselves back to right where they were in the moment of trauma, and everything's bubbling back up and they're like, why is this coming back? Why can't I get beyond this? And you can't get beyond it because your subconscious is actually being driven by the words and the emotions that store within the cells of your body. So talk therapy, hypnotherapy, those are wonderful modalities for understanding the event and how to move beyond it. The problem is that when the energy of those events, the energy of that emotion that's stored within your cells is triggered again, it triggers all of the emotions within the cells. The energy goes right down, makes them explode, and all of a sudden you're acting out in a way that your brain is saying, wait a minute, I don't need to be doing this. I understand it. And yet you find yourself in compulsion, speaking out or lashing out or getting angry or crying or getting despondent over something that you know better about. And then you beat yourself up even more. But it's understanding that those words stored within your body is what is catapulting you into current behavior. And if those emotions get stored enough, then what happens is you get this overflow, you get this so that the body can't handle anymore and disease begins. Energy is energy until it's not. And what I mean by that is that energy is flowing through your body. As soon as you start storing emotion in there, because emotion's going to go to the same place every single time, once you start storing there, it gets to be that log in the river that, the water flows around it, but 2 or 3 more logs or branches or whatever start building up with that original log, then the water has a harder time going around the log, and all of a sudden it starts flooding the field. That's exactly what's going on with your body. Think about it, Bob. I mean, 100 years ago, 150 years ago, when we didn't have microscopes, we had a bum knee, we had a bad neck, we had a bum leg. We kept things very generic in our description. In our technology, we've gotten so good at telling, we give names to everything, every disease, every type of cancer. We've gotten so good at being able to see through our microscopes and our scans and so forth exactly what's going on, that the word itself is enough to create the disease. If we have enough fear about cancer, let's say, then the fear in and of itself will create the cancer. It's not that there's anything wrong with your body, but the fear is something that's less than unconditional, and in and of itself, it stores within the body and it creates issues from that moment on. So when we look at hereditary diseases, we look at a process of, my mother had breast cancer and my grandmother had breast cancer, so there's a good chance that I'm going to get breast cancer. Well, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Did the breast cancer really come first, or did the fear of the breast cancer get passed down in utero into the subconscious of the fetus? That's what's going to take place at a certain age. And we really have to be aware of that.
Wow. I stopped early on because I was thinking, okay, so all of the words and emotions get stored in our body. That could be true for women because they remember everything, but guys forget everything. So is it true for both?
It's
Even
true
if you
for
don't
both.
remember Jack from yesterday?
One of the fascinating things about the technology we have today is science is beginning to show, women and men think differently, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
And so what we know is this. In the past, let's go back to caveman times. Men think one thing, I need to provide. They're working from one hemisphere of the brain at any given moment. And women are multitasking because they're taking care of the cave and the little cave kitties, and, they're making sure the house is okay and getting the food cooked. So early on, we started with different mindsets and different originations in the brain. Men today have become better at multitasking and using more than one hemisphere at one time, but they're still not great at it. Men and women, because I'm a linear thinker, so I think more like a guy, but we tend to compartmentalize.
Right.
So when we get uncomfortable as a male or as a male thinking female, you compartmentalize. So what science has been able to show, we've come so far in being able to look at how neurons are firing and the whole pathways of the brain. Men can now, we can quantifiably look, and men can create such a strong compartmentalization that they actually can forget a memory. And this is the first time we've ever been able to see it on scans, that a man can have a memory and they can make it erase. And women are not nearly as capable of doing that, but it's because men compartmentalize. So men's emotions are still going into the body, but how they deal with it are totally different. They tend to let more things flow. They tend to not put strong emotions into the same area of a word that a woman would. So women may take things more personally, or they may think deeper on it. And of course, the thinking and the processing of it in and of itself is still creating more memories, right? It's creating more emotions. The more I think about something, the more upset I'll become, or the more, I'll understand. But even through that process of thinking about it to get myself to a place of understanding, I have to continue to generate those emotions and thoughts in my body and store those. So it's important to look at, yes, men are going to let things flow. So they may not get as sick as a female in various things. But when men get sick, it tends to be a lot more catastrophic than minor. So the reason it's catastrophic is because they're storing in a very specific area, and they may not feel it very often. They may not have the emotional attachment to the words, but the words are still going in. And then every time they feel it at different, let's say hatred, the more that they feel it in different ways, then, you may have a catastrophic heart attack, or you may have, all of a sudden cancer in your bowels. I mean, you just don't know. So, men may get the colds and so forth, but when a guy gets sick, not all the time, but a lot of times he's going to be going into the more catastrophic diseases.
Gee. Now, I've heard you say that you're pretty tolerant to pain, or that you have a high threshold.
Yeah.
Does that have anything at all to do with this?
Oh, I think so. I think that all of us, I can be aware of what I'm thinking or what I'm saying, but because my pain threshold is so high, I don't get the warning signs that my body is starting to be traumatized or starting to have issues until, again, I'm in catastrophic. Look at my lupus 30 years ago, having both forms of lupus. It took both forms of lupus and me being in critical condition to get me to be aware of what I was storing inside of my body and work through it and release it from the cellular level. Using color works, which I developed, and then later on cellular cleansing and tone works and so forth. So it's just really important to understand that with the high threshold of pain, that we're not going to be as in tune when our body starts having issues. We tend to ignore it. So I got an ache. It's no big deal. The people that will pick it up real quick, we may sit back and go, wow, they complain a lot about their health. But the reality is they're feeling every little tiny bump in the road. And it's great for them if they're paying attention to it and get the issue in the tissue dealt with in that moment versus letting it turn into something more catastrophic.
Yeah, I heard that. So, Patti, then a guy may be what? Like more sensitive to pain than a woman? Or is this something you really cannot generalize about?
You really can't generalize it. It has everything to do with nurture and nature. You know, it has everything to do with how are we raised, what our thought processes are. You know, are we a hypochondriac or can we bull our way through anything? It really depends on our distinctive personality, and every single person is different.
Got it. In 2 minutes, do you think you could do a quick overview of ColorWorks, ToneWorks, Cellular? Because those are techniques you've taught other people to do, I think.
Yeah. ColorWorks is a very easy process. It's understanding this very basic premise. The two active frequencies in the universe are tone and color. Everything else is a passive frequency. And those passive frequencies help in the auric field externally of your flesh, on the outside of your body. Color and tone affect the cellular structure within your body, the subtle energy fields. And those are active frequencies and not passive frequencies. And there's a huge difference, a world in between, because your words and emotions are going into your cells. So while the passive frequencies that utilize the outside of your auric field will make you feel better, it won't necessarily deal with the issue down within the cellular structure. You need an active frequency that's going to shake those cells loose in order to get the emotion out of the literal cell. I mean, we're talking a tangible aspect here. And so it's important to use color or tone. So ColorWorks was developed when I had my lupus, and was shown to me by what I call Father. However you want to look at that, I call Father. But for me, it was understanding that, okay, I could do the color, but I wasn't feeling better. And I had to look at what was the emotion behind the lupus. And the emotion for me and for most people has been self-worth, because I was working in PhD positions with a high school education, and I didn't feel worthy to be where I was.
That's Patti Conklin. My name is Bob Keeton, and you're listening to Quantum Physics to Metaphysics with Life in Between. There's much more about Patti Conklin, her certified associates, her new book, and courses that are available right now on the web at patticonklin.com. That's Patti, Patti, Conklin, CONKLIN.com.
As host of Dialogue with Divinity, I am thrilled to join the X-Zone Broadcast Network and their growing number of affiliates. My quest for a connection to the divine ignited my successful career path as an international spiritual counselor for over 40 years, an author of 4 books, and well-known metaphysical educator. My clients call me their spiritual mama. So my job is to offer you a radio show to help you grow spiritually with wisdom and get specific tools from guests who are experts in their field. Tune in to Dialogue with Divinity and be part of the conversation with Spirit. My goal, your happy soul. For more information, please visit my website at johannacarroll.com.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, High Tech with Corey Kay, and every minute of the 24/7, 365 programming of the X-Zone Broadcast Network by calling 712-432-9459, courtesy of TalkStream Live. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. call 712-432-9459 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember, 712-432-9459 for the best of paranormal, new age, thought-provoking, sci-fi radio programming 24/7, 365.
Coming soon to the X-Zone Broadcast Network is A Different Perspective with me, Kevin Randall, as your host. We'll be taking a close look at what is happening in the world of UFOs today with side trips into the paranormal. Guests will range from those who are household names to those who have a different perspective on a variety of topics. No topic will be taboo, but there will be tough questions asked as we all search for the truth about UFOs, the paranormal, and those things that excite us. Sometimes we'll agree with a guest and sometimes we won't, but we'll try to keep the program topical. For those of you who would like to read, be sure to visit www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com and remember to listen to the other fine programs on the X-Zone Broadcast Network at www.xzbn.net. This is Kevin Randall. For nearly 30 years, I have been investigating the case of the Roswell UFO. I have interviewed hundreds of people and stood on the crash site. Now in Roswell in the 21st century, I have reviewed dozens of hours of audio and videotaped interviews, examined hundreds of files that relate to the crash, and have returned to Roswell in an attempt to put all that information into the proper perspective. For the first time in Roswell in the 21st century, I have made a dispassionate reevaluation of all that material and provide a new look at what happened. This is a book that clears away all the clutter that has hidden the truth for so long, strips away the various lies that surround the case, exposes the Air Force attempts at cover-up, and found a core of solid information that tells us all where the case stands today. Roswell in the 21st century will be available in just a few weeks. For more information, please visit my website at www.kevinrandall.blogspot.com.
What Happened in Benghazi is revealed by Nicholas Genix, author of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. He informs the American people that President Obama deceived them by advocating a strong foreign policy prior to the 2012 presidential election, and Hillary Clinton supported this deception. As the title infers, there is a connection between Obama, Islam, and Benghazi. Ample evidence informs Americans that Obama's early indoctrination in the Quran developed an affinity for Islam, why the Quran is the source of discontent in many countries, and why the Obama foreign policy deception led to poor military action and caused the loss of American lives in Benghazi. Genix provides 36 questions for the Select Committee on Benghazi to validate if Americans are justified to mistrust President Obama and Hillary Clinton. An overview of Obama, Islam, and Benghazi is presented on the website www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com. Afterlife expert Roberta Grimes was the first one to say that dying can be fun. Now her best-selling book, The Fun of Dying, is available in stores worldwide. So if you wonder whether death ends life, how it feels to die, or what heaven might be like, The Fun of Dying was written for you. And if you have always been afraid of death, or if you worry that your life has no meaning, let The Fun of Dying ease your fears and bring new meaning to your life. Nothing said in The Fun of Dying is based on the teachings of any religion. Instead, Roberta draws on evidence to explain how death happens, how it feels, and what comes next. A lot of the best death-related evidence was produced in the first half of the 20th century. When it is put together with recent discoveries, it tells a consistent and amazing story. Roberta Grimes blogs and answers questions at robertagrimes.com. Her wonderful book, The Fun of Dying, is available on Amazon and at stores worldwide wherever books are sold.
This is Quantum Physics to Metaphysics with Life in Between, your host, Patti Conklin. I'm Bob Keeton. Kind of nice to be back in this first program on a brand new network talking with Patti. Patti is on the web too at patticonline.com. Conklin, PattiConklin.com. We hit just briefly on ColorWorks, ToneWorks, cellular cleansing. Those are pretty much the signature healing therapies that you've created, aren't they?
Yeah, they really are. I mean, they're so simple, and yet they are so imperative that we use them. You know, there's lots of modalities out there, and everybody can find the modality that works for them. But my feeling is the more simple it is, the more effective it's going to be. I'm a busy woman, and, you know, people are busy. And when they're given homework assignments in order to help their own health or their emotions, and they're spending an hour a day in meditation, for me, it's hard to find an hour, and I'm not going to be as likely to utilize it. My modalities have brought in, 10 minutes, 12 minutes, that you can do every single day that is an active frequency that will work inside your body to help remove the emotions and those blocked energies so that your body has room to heal. Cellular cleansing came about in order to remove more emotions at one time. When you're using ColorWorks and ToneWorks, you're using a modality of taking one or two emotions and working on them for 30 days, maybe 45 days, and then taking the next set of emotions. Cellular kind of gets in there and takes 50 to 70% all at one time. And that's what's critical about cellular and why it's so useful for people, is because it allows you to go back into history, even in utero or past lives or genetics, whatever you believe, and remove the emotional hit to those associated time periods without having to relive the memory. Because so many people go into talk therapy or hypnosis or whatever, and they're attempting to find the origin of the event. And I'm like, hey, you know what? You don't need to know the origin of the event. What you need to do is have a tool that will remove that origin of event without you having to go there and know it. And I think that that's what has changed the lives of, close to 10,000 people who have used cellular, is because they could let go of memories from, a year old or in utero or age 3, things that they don't consciously remember, and yet is creating problems in their body at a later time period in their life.
It surprises me that so many people spend so many hours, days, and years in talk therapy, in any kind of analysis. And now you talk about 50 to 70% relieved in one session, am I right?
Well, it's one day. And the thing is the body will continue to release over a 6-month period. So you may notice very subtle changes right at the beginning. You may notice miraculous changes right at the beginning. Every single body is different. But what we do know over the 20 years that I've been doing it is that it takes the body approximately 6 months to reach all the way through it. But the nice thing is that the body's doing the work. It's like the body, as much as we talk about it, in terms of energy, the body is incredibly linear. And so when you give the body a specific task, it will do it. But if I were to say to my body, what color do I need to heal or what tone do I need to heal? My body would respond with, well, where did you want me to start? I didn't give it enough information. Yeah. So the more technical and linear I can be with my body, the more it's going to respond. And that's why cellular works so well, is because it's taking ages. I may ask you to go into a room that you're going to clean and create of age 1. What I'm instructing the body to give me is the emotions from age 1, framed in a way that looks like dirt or mold or whatever. And when I clean that, I'm actually cleaning those emotions. And then I'm creating a beautiful, maybe the Taj Mahal, maybe I'm in the clouds looking down at the earth. And those are the beautiful memories that are going back into that cell. So I'm giving the body a age time period, not specific events. I'm asking for an age so that the body can bring up all of those emotions without having to go into specific events. And that's what's so critical in terms of a cellular process or an intensive cellular, which is kind of combining the subconscious and the conscious together. But it gives the body the capability of healing and releasing that trauma without you having to remember what took place.
It may be well to say right here that this is totally available. The kind of healing that she has sourced for the planet is right there, and there are other practitioners that she's trained who actually can walk you through this, and it's pretty incredible. PattiConklin.com is the website. Patti, so how'd it happen?
Well, I was born with it, and I think that my unique way of looking at life has probably progressed it to where it is today. But it's been with me my entire life. It's not something that I forgot and came back into. What I didn't realize was that everyone else in the world didn't look at life the same way that I did. I was seeing more of a particle field than an actual physical reality. And I just didn't know that other people didn't see the world the same way until my early 20s. So I spent most of my lifetime looking at things, never having balance. I can remember my older brother, taking me out in the woods to, go hunting or do the trap line. And I'd be 4 or 5 years old. When kids are really, they've got great balance. They're very athletic. They're very limber. And, where I grew up, we had quicksand. And so my brother would walk across a log, he'd show me where the quicksand pits were, and he'd walk across the log. And even at the age of 4 or 5, I'd have to sit on my bottom and scoot across the log. I didn't have the wherewithal to be able to walk across that log, even if it was just 2 feet. And so what I didn't understand was I thought I was defective because I had no balance and I had no ability to see things. What I didn't realize until my early 20s was that it was a very unique thing. And so what it allowed me to do as I grew up and took different nonprofit jobs. I've been in nonprofit for 20 years and I've had this company for 21 years, was traveling the world and looking within different countries and different cultures and different communities and understanding that they thought differently. They stored differently than I did. And so therefore they had different disease subsets that I didn't have. And what it allowed me to do was this breadth of looking at 30, 40 different countries and seeing throughout the world how we store differently according to our thoughts. When I was director of Canine Companions for Independence in Florida, I had another visitation from Father, and that was a little bit before my 38th birthday. And Father said, I want you to take your family and move to Hartwell, Georgia, and fully begin walking the path I asked you to walk as a child. And that had been a very prominent part of my life, was always hearing this voice. It was always a male voice. And it's not that I believe that creator or source is male or female. I think you just hear the tonal quality of what you'll trust the most. And so for me, it was more of a masculine voice, which is why I say father. But that voice had been with me my entire life. And what I learned very early on, from the age of 7, when I first heard it, was that as long as I listened to that voice, I could trust what it was saying and I would be okay. So, leaving my nonprofit job and moving to a town that I didn't even know to begin my work wasn't even second guessed. It wasn't, oh my gosh, I've got to think about this. It was me calling my boss 5 minutes later and giving him my resignation and moving on to begin this work. And that was 21 years ago. And so what I tell people is that, if you have this internal voice that is instructing you, that is, talking to you, and you can deny it or decide, oh, gee, I don't want to do it, then you're not truly hearing from source. When you truly hear from source, there's no way that you can't not do it, even if it doesn't make sense. And you don't have to give up everything you've ever created in your life. You don't have to take 20 steps backwards. I think the idea of being of service and having to suffer through things is ridiculous. I think when you truly get that voice, as I have throughout my lifetime, I've always been enriched by it. And that doesn't mean I've been wealthy through it. It means that I've been enriched in terms of my spiritual growth and who I am as a human being, my ability to be of service and my ability and willingness to be of service. So it's just been kind of this long, beautiful terrain that I've traveled that has taken me now to 66 countries, has given me 21 years of being of service, of having Patti Conklin, Inc., and being able to not only help people feel better and heal, but also help people cross over, help people and doctors understand energy better. And also reaching, in the last few years, being able to actually do more neurological work in the brain without having to do brain surgery, changing people's lives.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
This is great. And a great series of shows are still to come, too. Quantum Physics to Metaphysics with Patti Conklin as your host. Patti, thanks. This has been quite an hour.
Thank you so much, Bob. I really appreciate you being on for the first show of Quantum Physics to Metaphysics. And I'm really looking forward to continuing the shows and having different guests on, and certainly having you back on, Bob.